Hey folks, it's Keith. I haven't done a motorcycle video in a while, but I'm getting ready to leave for a 3-day trip to Vermont over mostly dirt roads on the Puppy Dog route and the Northeast Backcountry Discovery route. The Puppy Dog just got re-released for 2021, so there's some new sections in the south that I'm eager to check out. Let's take a look at the WR. So I'm using the Giant Loop Coyote bag again. I haven't used it for a couple of years. And this is a perfect way to take this WR out and go light. In here, believe it or not, I've got pretty much everything I would use on one of my normal trips. So I've got a tent, I've got a sleeping bag, I've got an air mattress, I've got a stove cookware set, and I've got a hammock and my clothes. And at the top, I've just got a camp chair. And then in the Wolfman bag in the back is just some tire changing material if I needed it. So that's a tube and some patch kits, air compressor kit, and tire irons. And then I've just got some essentials in the tank bag. And that's pretty much it. I'm trying to go really light. And the key to this is not bringing a lot of clothes. I really only have a few articles of clothing, one change of clothes, some stuff I can wash at the campsite and rewear the next day. So we're ready. Let's hit the road. I started the trip on a section of the Puppy Dog that should be very familiar to anyone who's ridden it in the past. The route starts at Green River Road in Greenfield and runs to the Green River Covered Bridge in Guilford, Vermont. The section south of Route 9 hasn't changed a lot over the years. On this trip, though, I cut off a big chunk of it, including Ames Hill Road and the part through Marlboro, because it's local to me and I've ridden it so many times over the years. So I cut through West Brattleboro over to Dummerston. This trailer park in Athens is one you easily remember if you've ever done the Puppy Dog in the past. Both the Puppy Dog and the Northeast Backcountry Discovery route follow the same path through Brookline, into Athens, and then Cambridgeport, where they diverge. And this section of Cambridgeport has been on the Puppy Dog for years as well. Been riding for a few hours. I'm in Grafton, Vermont right now. It's been a really nice ride. These roads are pretty much wide open. There's spots where you can go 50 miles an hour, and then there's spots where there's a lot of houses and you kind of have to go slow. There's parts when you're in the woods pretty deep too. We're getting ready to go into Grafton, a little town, and then just going to keep heading north and follow the Puppy Dog 2021. This was the second of 8 covered bridges I passed through on the Puppy Dog route. Here's where trips like this can go in unexpected directions. Just the things you see on the side of the road. This truck caught my eye because it looked like it just broke down in this spot and the owner gave up and was just trying to sell it. It'd be the first of many such moments on the trip. And then also in Rockingham was this abandoned motel. One of the last remnants of motorized travel before Interstate 91 was built through this section of Route 5 in 1962. Then it's back through the woods again and another covered bridge. Now I'm at the Uppers Falls Bridge north of Perkinsville, Vermont. This is a new section. It's been routed more to the east and around Springfield. Big difference from the other routes. Stuff I've never been on before. It's really nice, just as good. I don't miss some of the stuff on the old Puppy Dog, like Popple Dungeon Road, roads that just seem to go on forever and ever. There's a little bit more variety in this part. So, we got a couple covered bridges. Now we're gonna go get some lunch. The Uppers Falls Bridge here is in Wethersfield, Vermont, right off Route 131. It had some extensive restoration work done within the past 15 years. Villagers was a place I've been wanting to stop at for years. It's right at the corner of routes 106 and 131. Highly recommended. The next part through Cavendish gets you back into the woods, and it almost resembles a Class 4 road in some places. There are a few sections of the Puppy Dog that aren't maintained over the winter, but in the summer they are kept up with and are in good shape. Riding the route on a 250 was very easy. The difference with a big adventure bike is that you'd probably have to stand through some of the sections and do a little line selection, but it's not any kind of challenge. You could ride the Puppy Dog on a street bike. Here are a couple more covered bridges. Often when they are this close to each other, they were built by the same builder using the same design, like these, built over 100 years ago using a tied arch style. Bible Hill Road has beautiful views of Ascutney Mountain. It's hard to ignore this 1950s pink trailer along the route in West Windsor. I saw very few people in the 2 days. On this day I saw a handful of cars, and most of those were from the Postal Service. Passenger cars almost always pulled over for me. I only saw 2 adventure bikes the whole 2 days on the route. There were quite a few hang operations that weekend. I don't know if it was the first or second cut of the year, but they were pretty plentiful. These sections through Heartland and Pomfret are beautiful. Pretty remote, well-maintained roads and gorgeous houses. Here are some more unexpected animal encounters. A horse, and then right after a deer crossing the road. I think that was the only one I saw that weekend. Right now I'm in Stafford, Vermont, and it's kind of the second leg of the puppy dog. It's north of Barnard, which is the first leg. And I gotta say, the 2021 puppy dog route is really fantastic. The section from about Springfield, Vermont up to Woodstock was all new and really very good. So now I'm riding up to Alice State Park. Pretty tired. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. It's been a long day, a little maybe 110, 120 miles. Got a few more to go, then we'll be camping. Because I skipped some of the southern route in the morning, I had time to get a head start on the northern route in the afternoon. What I liked about Stratford and Chelsea is how you really won't see anyone but locals here. No tourists. Pretty isolated. This was a spot I came up on where someone was building a house, right on the ridgeline. Great views. I'm sure most of you are aware of the floating bridge in Brookfield. It's a great community spot. I remember the old bridge that was removed in 2008. It had deteriorated to the point where most of the time it had standing water in it. A little hazardous on a motorcycle. I got to Alice State Park at 4:30 in the afternoon. I like it here because you can almost always get a site, and it's much easier to get a lean-to. But there's no swimming there, and stores and restaurants are about 10 miles away. But they do have this cool fire tower. This is the fire tower at Alice State Park, and it's got 360-degree views of the Green Mountains to the west, and then to the east, the White Mountains. It's a little clearer, probably see it better. Pretty amazing. I got an early start Saturday morning, and on the dirt road parallel to I-89, I saw this car. My best guess is that it was a deer strike from the night before. I was surprised it was just left there rather than getting towed out. Northfield is an interesting town because it has 5 covered bridges. These 3 are all within a half mile of each other. Something about the topography of Northfield has protected these bridges from the flooding that has claimed so many others in Vermont over the past 100 years. I'll say a word about gasoline here. You should plan ahead. If you're leaving a decent-sized town and headed for the woods, you may not see a station for an hour. The WR hits reserve at just 90 miles, so I just filled up any time I saw a gas station after 50 miles and never had a problem. Here we're moving north of Interstate 89 and closer to the Northeast Kingdom. The elevation is increasing, and we're starting to see more views of the Green Mountain Gaps and Mount Mansfield to the west. If you're not in the forest, you're riding by a farm. This will continue until the end of the puppy dog route. Just reached a milestone. The WR turned 10,000 miles. This is the 6th season I've had it, and I think I've only been on the highway one time. So a lot of dirt roads, a lot of back roads. I'm here in Moortown, Vermont. This is where the puppy dog takes a more easterly direction than the routes from the previous years. You're moving north into Hartwick and then Craftsbury. There's nothing technical about these roads, but it'll be a while before you see any pavement. This is rural Vermont with an authenticity you don't see in the major tourist spots like Stowe, Woodstock, or Burlington. It's like going back in time. Craftsbury is typical of these towns. If you want lunch, your best option is the general store, right on the route. Here's another unexpected animal encounter. 4 geese just walking down the road. I didn't see water anywhere around. Craftsbury feels like you're really in the Northeast Kingdom now. Today, it's the home of former Red Sox pitcher Bill Lee, the spaceman. You can see why people are drawn to this area. The Northeast Kingdom is just amazing for the vistas. You see a lot of farms, a lot of mountains. Behind me is looking to the east at some mountains. Just great riding out here, mile after mile after mile of rural dirt road. By now, I'm feeling like this trip has turned into something special. What started as a motorcycle trip with the intent to ride dirt roads has become a kind of cultural journey. 2 days on back roads through small towns, running the length of Vermont, you start to get a good feel for the state and the people who live here. Here's another one of those experiences, riding through the center of Barton during their annual town yard sale. Then, before you know it, you stumble onto another unique place. I'm at the Old Stone House in Brownington, Vermont. I'm only about 20 miles from the end of the puppy dog route. Got a little bit of rain here, but this is a place I've stopped at many times. It's well worth the stop if you're in the area. If you're into history or just architecture, engineering, this African-American man built this dormitory himself, 4 stories. The stonework is just super impressive. You got to see it to believe it. And they do tours here on the weekend. It's well worth the stop, and it's just off the puppy dog route in Brownington. As I was leaving the Old Stone House, my excitement was building as I neared Derby Line and the end of the puppy dog. For the past 3 years, I'd been trying to finish the northern section with friends, but had to turn around each time before reaching the end, due to time constraints. One of the joys of riding alone for me is keeping my own timetable, being able to get an early start, turning around in the middle of the road to circle back to something, or lingering a little longer somewhere. This was my trip. This time I knew I'd make it to Derby Line, but there were still challenges ahead. You can see how the rain is really picking up here. It distracted me from appreciating where I was, and I didn't have a full understanding of just how close to the Canadian border I would get. It was only later, after I finished, that I realized that this road, Holland Road, runs right up against the Canadian border. I could have literally walked off the right shoulder and I would have been in Quebec. Here on the bridge you can see the U.S. Customs checkpoint on the left, and the Canadian one is not visible on the right. I had heard about the border between Derby Line, Vermont and Stansted, Quebec before. It's a relatively soft border. There are streets that pass over the border that are marked by flower pots and the ever-present white Border Patrol SUVs. Since COVID, the Canadian border has been mostly closed, and as a result, Derby Line looks like a ghost town. I was at this big Irving gas station at 2:30 on a Saturday afternoon, and not a single car came in for gas in the 20 minutes after I'd parked. I had a 2-hour ride back to Alice State Park, and it poured rain most of the time. I decided to take Interstate 91 for an exit to try to make time, but that was a big mistake. The WR has trouble keeping highway speed, and in the heavy rain, the bike frankly didn't feel safe. I got off the first exit and took 2-lane state highways back. I have to say, as much as I love the WR, it is the worst road bike I've ever ridden, and it's not even close. By the time I got back to Northfield, the rain had mostly stopped. I have arrow-stitched Darien pants, and of course I developed the infamously wet stitch crotch from all the rain pooling up in my lap. At least it barely rained at the campground. Well, guess where I am? It was raining like 2 hours getting back from Derby Line. What a nightmare. Everything was wet, which you kind of expect with the gear I had. But I made it. It stopped raining when I got back to the campground and ready to kind of have a nice night and head home tomorrow. I wanted to show off my camp here. Got this lean-to, which is really handy for like when it rains, like today. And all the stuff fits in this bag, except for a camp chair I put here with a couple of pairs of shoes. Fit my hammock. Good sized tent with a sleeping bag and an air mattress. And my camp's kind of a mess because it rained and I'm just kind of setting up for the night. I even got a tablecloth. And then these are really handy. This is a solar powered lantern that works great in the evening. My camp chair, so I was able to fit everything in the WR. Ended up putting a couple 100 miles a day on it and it worked out really well. Just a couple closing thoughts before I finish the video. The 2021 Puppy Dog is quite a departure from the previous versions, which I've been riding since about 2008, 2009. It moved quite a bit away from the central and western part of the state and really focuses more on the eastern part. So there's some things that, you know, I kind of missed from doing the traditional puppy dog all these years, like going up to Jay Peak and seeing the abandoned asbestos mine and some of the other things around Stowe, especially that nice view of the mountains as you go through Stowe. But instead you get a lot more, I think, varied terrain. You get a lot of more isolated. You don't see as many people. And the payoff at the end, that Derby line, is pretty spectacular, how you're literally riding along the Canadian border, where if you walked off the shoulder of the road, you'd be in Canada. It's pretty cool. So I think both routes are good. I would continue to ride what they call the classic puppy dog, but I think the 2021 is well worth it. The WR did great. A big bike would be great. They're all fun. So get out there and enjoy it. And thanks for watching the video. Bye.